Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Sports Talking Sports. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Wednesday. We have got a very, very great show lined up today. It's going to be one of my favorites because we've got someone coming on that was one of my all-time favorite players playing in the NFL. But before we bring on tonight's guest, let's bring on one of my co-hosts, former Florida A&M National Championship quarterback with the FAMU Rattlers and current voice of the Rattlers football and basketball broadcast with partner Melvin Beal. Let's bring on my man from Jacksonville, Al the Rattler Chester.
What's going on, Les? My man, my brother from another mother. Greetings
From
Jacksonville. Happy hump day.
This is going to be one hump day. I am psyched for tonight's show. I'm telling you, I hope the viewers are going to be in for a special treat tonight. It's going to be a great, great show. We have one of the best to ever do it at his position. So let's have Tony run tonight's opening reel, and we'll bring on our first guest. Sports Talking Sports is privileged to introduce a Hall of Famer, a Pro Bowler, one of the best to ever do it in the history of the NFL, number 80, Kellen Winslow. Kellen, thanks for coming on STS tonight.
What's
My
up,
pleasure,
Kellen?
guys. Thanks for having me. How's it going, Al?
My buddy.
Good to
My
see
man,
you
my
also.
Les, when you look for prototype tight ends, or you Google a tight end, Kellen Winslow, his name pops up. And I tell you, but this guy has a gold jacket. He didn't buy it. He's the best that ever did it, man, by far.
I'm telling you, definitely the best of his generation, and you've got to say one of the top 5 tight ends in the history of the game. I know we're gonna embarrass Kellen a little bit. I know he's a humble guy, but sorry, we call it like we see it, Kellen, and that's the way we saw it. So listen, thanks so much for joining tonight's show and jumping on. We're gonna have a lot of viewers out there, so everyone, get your questions ready for one of the best to ever do it, Kellen Winslow. Al, let's kick it off to you to start this thing.
All right, Kellen, tell us where it all started for you, man. What sports did you play? Where did you grow up? When did you start playing football? Walk us through that timeline on your early days.
In my early days, well, I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and I was raised in East St. Louis, Illinois, right across the river. And I was born in St. Louis because at the time, African Americans could not go to the hospitals in East St. Louis, Illinois. I just throw that in there to tell you how old I am. I just turned 67 years old earlier this month, and it's been a good journey. Raised in East St. Louis, I'm the oldest boy of 7 kids that my parents had, Homer and Odell Winslow, God rest their soul. I am the 3rd child, oldest boy, but my brother David, right up under me, we all know is the family favorite. I'm 3 of 7.
Why is he the
David
favorite?
is 4 of 7, the middle
Kellen?
child. He's a favorite child. We all know that. All 7 of us know that, so we accept that and move on. Raised in a very loving home in a very loving neighborhood that has fallen on hard times in the city of East St. Louis. But I'm proud to be a native of East St. Louis, Illinois.
Oh.
Kellen, you didn't play football right away. I mean, what sports did you play coming up? What'd you do?
Oh, geez. In the neighborhood, you played all the sports. Whatever season it was, you played that sport. But as far as organized football, I didn't play till I was a senior in high school.
Wow.
And the reason for that was my sophomore year, before my sophomore year in high school started, I got a job at United Parcel Service. Don't do the math. I was not old enough to work there, but at the time they didn't check those things. And I worked there for 2 years until I took a leave of absence before the start of my senior year to go play high school football. And the reason I came out was because my high school coach, who I credit everything that I've ever done since high school to him. And his assistant coach, Jimmy Lewis, Coach Cornelius Perry, and Coach Jimmy Lewis came to my geometry class and asked my teacher if they could speak to Kellen Winslow. And I can hear their voices in my ear to this day when my teacher said, "Mr. Winslow, Coach Perry would like to see you outside." My life changed at that very moment.
Wow.
Never will forget it.
Now,
They
Kellen,
convinced me that I should go off in football, and I did.
so Kellen, that was your senior year. You play your senior year, which is really, I mean, most people start, Pop Warner and things like that. How do you get to Missouri? Were you heavily recruited, or because you only played 1 year, it was just the locality of Missouri? How did you end up at Mizzou?
Well, like my entire career, you're only as good as the people around you. I played on a great high school football team, a great, really dominant high school football team. I was the last piece. They needed a tight end. They came to my geometry class and got me to play. We ran a wishbone offense. We threw a lot out of that wishbone offense. I caught 17 passes as a senior. I had 1 touchdown and 1 1 2-point conversion. The defensive end on our team had more touchdowns than I did.
Wow.
All right. Well,
we went to play in the state championship that year. It was the first year of Illinois Division V state playoff system. We went to the state championship game. We were 13-0, and we lost in overtime. The last 2 passes came to me in that overtime game, and I wasn't able to pull either one of them in, and we ended up losing. And that was the only loss we had that year. I'm okay. I've dealt with it, Al. I'm okay.
He's got past that, Al.
Okay.
He's gotten past that.
All right.
Not really.
So,
but I tell myself I have.
So how did you get to Missouri? And I believe it was Al Onofrio, I guess, was recruiting you. I know Warren Powers ended up coaching you later on in your career there, but how did you get to Missouri?
My route to Missouri again was I was that kid on the team that kind of showed up on film, and coaches who came in would ask about me, and also Coach Perry and Coach Lewis. They were my biggest fan. They advocated for me. We had 2 other guys on our high school team, Eugene Berg, who ended up playing in Michigan State, Cleveland Cross, who played at Purdue, then Arizona. They were blue chip All-Americans, every parade All-Americans. Everybody in the country came in looking for Eugene and Cleveland. My coaches would bring me into the room and say, "You should talk to this guy." And when Eugene decided to go to Michigan State and Cleveland went to Purdue, Missouri said, "Okay, we'll take him."
Well, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I tell you what. Well, Kellen, backing up a little bit now, you didn't play ball till your senior year. You worked at UPS making that cheese.
Correct.
I'm sure you made some good money. But you were a big-time chess player growing up as well. Talk to us about that, man. I mean, I think that's unique, something that's a little different that most folk don't know about you.
Well, I was on the chess team in high school. I did end up running track my senior year also. But I was on the chess team 3 years in high school. And we went to state. My senior year, I went to state in football, track and field, and chess.
Wow.
And competed at that level. Chess was a game that one summer a church came to build on the property that we played baseball on all the time. And as there's a bunch of kids on the street. We didn't have anything to do. An older guy taught us how to play chess. And, my cousins, my friends were very competitive. And we ended up forming the East St. Louis Senior High School chess team. We're mostly from my street. And that's how I got involved in chess, and I still play to this day.
Al, he made All-State in chess. That's a first for our show. We have
no, I didn't make All-State in chess.
Oh, you didn't make All-State. Okay, but you're the first chess player.
I competed on state level.
Okay.
Our team did. We went to state. But I'll tell you one thing about a great question, Al, about the chess side. I didn't understand football until I realized it was chess.
Wow.
And if somebody had told me that on day one, I would have, it would have been that transition would have been a lot easier. I'm the knight. The tight end is the knight on the chessboard. The tight end controls the middle of the field. And if somebody had told me that on day one, I would have picked it up right away. I didn't get that until I was a sophomore in college when I realized that chess and football are the same thing.
Well, Al, Kellen gets, he All-American in college. You made the college football Hall of Fame. You never retired at Mizzou, but you really killed me in 1978 because, as everyone knows that watches this show, I'm a massive LSU Tiger fan, and I'm watching the game, the Liberty Bowl. You make a touchdown catch and beat us 20-15. We had Charles Alexander, went on and played with the Bengals, who you ended up playing. We'll talk about that later on. But you leave Mizzou. You have a really, really star-studded career, and you get drafted really high by the San Diego Chargers, the San Diego Chargers. Your thoughts during draft day? Where were you? I mean, they didn't have the green room like they do now. Where were you during draft day?
I was in my apartment in Columbia, Missouri. But before I go on to talk about the draft, being drafted by the Chargers, I want to talk about those Missouri football teams I played on.
Absolutely.
In those 4 years that I was there, we played some big teams, non-conference, and of course in the Big 8 conference with Oklahoma and Nebraska. Being there in Colorado was very good at that time in the Big 8 conference. But my freshman year, we beat Alabama in Alabama on national television on Monday Night Football. And in the 4 years I was there, we beat Alabama, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Arizona State, LSU, Nebraska twice.
Pretty impressive.
We knocked off teams that in my senior year, we played the number 1, 2, and 3 ranked team in a 4-week period.
Wow. That's a schedule.
We were a very good team. We were very close to this day, thanks to text messaging. We're very close to this day, and we played some great games. That LSU game was one of the great ones that we had. These are some of the guys I played with in college. James Wilder.
Great running back.
Yeah, James Wilder. Earl Gant, James Taylor, Kirk Peterson, Howard Richards, James Taylor. These guys were in the league for a very long time. And dare I say, Steve Pozarkowicz, when I was a freshman, played quarterback, drafted in the first round by the St. Louis Cardinals. Henry Marshall, Kansas City Chiefs. Henry was a stud in college and in the pros. He reminded me so much of Otis Taylor. And of course, at running back, we had a running back by the name of Curtis Brown. We had a great game against USC. Did I say USC? We beat USC.
Wow.
In the Coliseum.
Wow.
My first start was against USC in the Coliseum. And of course, Curtis Brown had a great game. And at running back, we had a guy by the name of Tony Galbraith.
Another great player. Absolutely.
Great player.
Yeah. You had some studs on that team. So I just want
to stop and give my teammates some love and some recognition. And I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out. Earl Gant at running back also. Phil Bradley.
Phil Bradley went on and played baseball for the Seattle Mariners.
Went on to play baseball. Phil Bradley, Joe Stewart, Leo Lewis, who played in Minnesota for so long. Leo and I were roommates.
You really did have a lot of talent on that team.
I could go on and on of guys who played in those 4 years that I was there. Johnny Poe, Eric Wright.
Ooh.
You guys were loaded, man.
You were.
Eric Wright from East St. Louis, Illinois.
Wow.
My hometown. Eric Wright.
Wow.
So we were loaded.
Oh, yeah.
We were loaded.
Definitely loaded. Well, we do.
I just want to get that in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And those were great teams, and you really did pull some massive. They called them massive upsets in the day. But before we go into the Chargers' career, this is probably going to jumpstart that. But we do have some questions out there. So Tony, let's get Kellen a question that's not about the Chargers yet, because I want to hear his Charger story. So, do we have any questions?
Yo, we have questions, Les.
We have questions.
We'll get
Kellen,
them out
you're popular.
there
We got a lot of them. So let's
okay, let's do that.
All right, so from John Irwin, John asks, what are your thoughts on the NFL, on how the NFL has changed since your playing days? It seems like you would really excel in this pass-happy NFL. You and the Chargers were ahead of your time.
Good question, John.
I agree. The Chargers were ahead of their time, and Don Coryell deserves all the credit for that. As I said earlier, I played on some great teams when I was in high school, college, and professionally. I was always seemed to be the last piece of the puzzle of what teams were trying to do. And I was very fortunate to be drafted by the Chargers. And we'll talk about the draft a little bit later, how that happened. But you got to give Don Coryell that credit. And we finally got him inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as a contributor. No, as a head coach, they normally say, well, did he win any Super Bowls? No, we did not win any Super Bowls, but I can equate the value of Don Coryell to the NFL, down to the penny. It's called the NFL television contract. It's a passing league. We are a passing league because of Don Coryell and what he did with the offensive personnel that he had. And I happen to be that tight end in that offense. Every team that has a passing game today is running some version of Don Coryell schemes.
Which
and
really
that's why he's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kellen, and that really started at San Diego State when he coached the Aztecs. You know,
yes.
he had a great offensive system. Then he gets, he goes to St. Louis, who was down. He resurrects Jim Hart's career. Really, Jackie Smith turns into uses him as a weapon. And then he comes to the Chargers and he turns you guys into an offensive juggernaut.
Well, all the pieces came together. He had great personnel at San Diego State. He was known for recruiting junior college players. And the passing tree system that he put in was to teach the offense in a very simplistic way because of the JUCO transfers. He didn't have 4 years with these guys. He had 2 years. So he simplified the offense, a system that was based on a concept that everybody could understand and you could pick it up. And that's how he had success there. And he had some great players at San Diego State. Isaac Curtis.
Oh, yeah.
Willie Buchanan, who ended up playing with us in the Chargers the latter part of his career. And on and on and on, the number of guys who played at San Diego State for Coach Coryell. But our offense was, I could still run it today because it's just ingrained in you. And when Coach Coryell had the idea of taking out the fullback, putting in a second tight end, the game of football changed. And I happened to be that tight end that they put in place of the fullback, which happened to be John Cappelletti.
Wow. Former Heisman Trophy winner.
Former Heisman Trophy winner, exactly. And Don Coryell said, put Kellen in there. He can do all those things. And of course, Al, getting back to the analogy with chess, it was because I understood that football is nothing but chess. And no matter where I moved the pieces, I knew where I was in relationship to what was happening on the rest of the field. And I knew what people were doing and why they were doing it because it was chess.
Well, Kellen, I tell people all the time as an old quarterback, man, if you get your tight ends involved in your passing game, it opens everything else up for the receivers, early and often, and you get the backs involved in the passing game. But the key to the passing game for any successful quarterback is having great tight end.
Control the middle of the field, and you can pick when you want to go deep. Right. You can do whenever you want to, and you have to go deep. Some quarterbacks, if you go back and you chart their passes in a game, they dink everything. 5 yards here, everything's to the outside. I want to see those dots when they draw it up like in basketball on the court. I want to see where those shots are taken from. There's got to be a lot of dots in the middle of the field. If it's not, you're not using the entire field.
Well, it's the easiest throw. Right down the middle of the field. It's the easiest
and it's the biggest target.
Right. Right.
Well, you were a great target. Never mind biggest. You were a tremendous target. But that was a good question, John. Do we have another one?
We have lots.
We have. Well, before we get to the questions, let's get Kellen's career into the Chargers because I think a lot of questions are going to go the Chargers' way. So, Kellen, you get drafted in '78. Coryell's there. By the way, the guy seems so intense on the sidelines. Did he ever have any lighthearted moments? He was just very staunch, walking up to the sidelines. He always had a scowl on his face.
Coach loved football, and he loved the offensive side of football, and he loved the passing game. And the first thing after I got drafted, I got off the plane. I was picked up by Tank Younger, the assistant general manager, one of the greats of Grambling University, and Grambling State University. And he brought me to the stadium. I met Coach Coryell for the first time face to face. And the first thing he said to me was not hello, not how was your flight. He said, how would you like to play some wide receiver?
Okay.
I just started grinning because I knew I was home.
I mean, and you know, it's funny, you had to share the ball a little bit too, because you had some great offensive talent around you as well. But let's go, Tony, let's throw a question out there.
Sure thing.
Let's do it.
So Rob wants to know, was the 82 game against Miami your most memorable one?
Well, we're jumping up, but.
Ooh, the 82 game against Miami. Yes and no. Yes, because everybody remembers that game and everybody wants to talk about that game. But for me, one of the, along with that memory, is a memory where we went into Oakland. Latter part of the season, if we lose this game, we get eliminated mathematically from the playoff picture. We had to have the win, and we went up there and beat the Raiders 46 to 21. And in that game, I had 5 touchdowns.
Five TDs, still a record to this day.
And, you know, through my, and you meet so many great people in football. And through my being recruited in college to Kansas, I met Gale Sayers. And Gale Sayers had a game where he had 6 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, San Francisco.
I mean, that's the stratosphere. That's thin air that you're in when you can score 6 touchdowns in a game. And he didn't even play the whole game.
He was one of the best broken field runners of all time, that's for sure.
Yes, one of the greatest ever. But, you know, 5 touchdowns at a time when we needed that game. And our offense was, you know, you run your route, Dan's going to get the ball to who's ever open. And that night it was me, and the ball kept coming. And, you know, we were able to stay alive and make the playoffs.
But that game that Kellen, that Rob's talking about, 13 catches, 166 yards, a touchdown, but probably, which really was the biggest play in the game, Von Schamann lines up for the game-winning field goal, and you get that big paw up there and tip it. Was it you or Leroy Jones? There was always this thing. Who tipped it? Was it you or Leroy? Who gets the credit?
Well, there were 2. We blocked 2.
Okay.
2 field goals in that game.
Okay.
I got the first one with my, you know, little finger there. I just hit it. It just hit my hand, hit my finger there, and didn't knock it offline. All it did was slow down the rotation of the ball, which killed the distance. It was still on line, but it just came up short. That was the first one to send the game into overtime. Then we blocked a second field goal. And for the longest, ESPN gave me credit for 2 blocked field goals, but then they went back and corrected it a few years later, a few years ago, and gave the credit to Leroy Jones,
Gotcha.
God rest his soul, because he blocked the second one.
Yeah, he was
I jumped on the second one also, but I got clipped and ended up on the bottom of the pile, and Leroy slipped through and got the second one.
Good question, Robin. A great game, one of the epic in Miami, one of the greatest playoff games in NFL history. Let's throw another one out there for Kellen.
So that was also John's next question, but I'm going to skip down to Matthew Dunn. Matthew asks or states, your 80s Chargers teams were so explosive. When you watch the NFL today, are there any teams that you think could keep up with your Charger teams offensively?
I think all of them can.
Yeah.
Because with the rule changes and the coaches' approach to the game today, especially a lot of these younger offensive coordinators, they are statistically keeping up and putting up the numbers. But what they're not doing is, as Al said, they're not getting the ball to the tight end early. Our offense ran on getting the ball to the tight end, and we had 2 tight ends on the field because we ran a lot of check with me, a deuce package where nobody knew what the strong side of the offense was. So they'd have to declare, and when they declared, Dan would usually go the other way with a run or go the other way with a pass, and that's what kept them off balance until they made some adjustments to that. But you've got to get the ball down the middle of the field in order to take advantage of the whole field. And I see some games, so college and pro, and they're just doing little dinky passes to the outside. There might as well be rushes for a catch for 5 yards. There's nothing but a rush anyway. But to be able to throw the ball downfield, when I chart a game, I want to see. I go back and I look at how many times have they intentionally thrown downfield. Just let it air out. And to me, you should be doing that at least twice a quarter. At least just taking a shot downfield to remind the defense that you can do that. Because if you don't, those safeties start creeping up. They start cheating and they start creeping up because they're not worried about you going over the top of them. So you have to do at least twice a game go on the top. And that is, the effect of Don Coryell and Dan Fouts at quarterback.
But you guys spread it out, right? So Al, they spread it out. You had a lot of great weapons on the outside. You had the middle of the field, but then you give it a number 46. The guy that you traded for, Chuck Muncie, who was just a beast, and it was difficult to tackle him. And then a change of pace back. You got James Brooks you throw in there, who could run between the tackles, but what a great pass receiver out of the backfield, right? That gave another weapon to Fouts.
James Brooks, pound for pound, the best running back.
Really?
In the league at the time, pound for pound. JB could run the ball in the inside. He could run it on the outside. He could pick up the blitz. He could lead block for you. He could catch the ball coming out of the backfield. He could return kicks. He could return punts. He was very versatile.
He was lightning in a bottle. That's what he was. Then
That's
you had
exactly
Big
what
Muncie.
it was.
He could take it to the house too, man. He run inside, outside. And obviously, Kellen, you played with some great players, man. I want to, you talk about these receivers outside. I want 10 words or less. I want to call some names. Tell me what comes to mind to you.
Okay.
When I call these names. Dan Fouts, obviously, he was your quarterback. Dan Fouts.
Leader. Field general. That was Dan's huddle. And all the respect that you had to offer, you had to give to Dan. That's how we ran.
Wes Chandler.
Ooh.
Wes Chandler.
Shake and bake. Shake and bake. There was very few people better after the catch than Wes Chandler.
Charlie Joyner.
Professional. Precise. Reliable.
Wow.
Calm.
JJ, John Jefferson.
Loved him.
Electric. JJ made everybody around him better because you wanted to contribute like JJ did.
Played with a lot of energy too.
Oh,
a lot of energy.
JJ. Oh man.
Don Coryell, he's the last one.
I think I've already covered that with Coach. He loved the game. He just loved it. And this is all he wanted to do in his life. He wanted to be a football coach. And it showed.
Wow. I mean, you play with some incredible. I mean, you were dynamite yourself, but what a great offensive cast that Chargers teams had from 78 to 82, 83. Do we have any more? We have a ton for Kellen, don't we?
We do.
All right. You know something, Tony, why don't we do this? Because I know we started this. Kellen, you're so popular right now, and the thing's blowing up here. Can we go to a quick commercial? You think we can do that? And then come back with questions for our amazingly special guest, Kellen Winslow. We're going to do that right after this.
At Revolution Basketball Training, we improve the skills of athletes with a diverse set of training programs for all ages. With innovative techniques and an experienced training staff, we push your skills to the next level, turning weaknesses into strengths. Technology like our instant feedback system accelerates learning and is one of the many reasons we are different. Join Connecticut's largest basketball movement. Don't just play the game, revolutionize it.
Welcome back to Sports Talking Sports. I'm your host, Les Schwartz, joined by the man on my right, Al the Rattler Chester, my co-host, voice of the Rattlers radio, football, and basketball broadcast. And the man in the middle is tonight's special guest, Hall of Famer, all pro, all everything, number 80 tight end, Kellen Winslow. Kellen, you are like blowing it up tonight. We've got a lot of people that want to talk to you. So we're going to have Tony throw a few more questions at number 8 because we know what he does. He catches those questions and runs for a touchdown. So let's have Tony throw them out there.
All right. Tech for Fun asks, how has the position of tight end changed from when you played to today?
Good question.
Well, the rules have changed to what the defense can do as far as the release on the line of scrimmage, and that's a big thing right there. But the tight ends today they would have done well in my day because there's just great athletes. You know, you can see there is not a team that's been to the Super Bowl over the last 10 years in the Super Bowl who hasn't had a dominant tight end.
Yeah.
And that's what the position is designed to do. And if you're not getting the ball to your tight end, or using a tight end as a decoy to get the ball to other people, then you really should not be calling plays as offensive coordinator or head coach, because that's where the action is. It's in the middle of the field. It's forcing the safety to stay at home. It's forcing the middle linebacker to stay at home. It affects a lot of things on the board, seemingly on the field. So you've got to get them there. But today's tight ends, I mean, they're just so good. They're so athletic. They're so big and they're so strong. You got guys at 260 pounds running like deer down the field.
Yeah. Well, to piggyback that question, I wanted to get your take on, we could talk about this, some of the tight ends that are dominant in the game today, but one that just recently retired, when he was healthy, looked like he was pretty unstoppable. Just your opinions on Rob Gronkowski. I know, crazy Gronk and all the crazy shenanigans, but as a football player, he looked like, to me, like pretty much a dominant, unstoppable force when healthy.
Yeah, that's what he was. His size, his agility. If Gronk was not playing tight end with the Patriots, he could have, started at power forward for the Celtics. And that's where during the craze of basketball, that's where most of the tight ends were. They were on the basketball court. Then they started to matriculate over to the football field. The Tony Gonzalez's, the Antonio Gates, those guys with the basketball background found their way into football. And that's exactly what Gronk was. He was that power forward.
Good question, Tech. That's Joe, right? So let's throw another question out there, Tony.
Richard Trotter asks, who was your favorite quarterback?
Other than Dan Fouts.
High school, college, or pro?
Let's throw well, it's probably your high school teammate, your college teammate, your pro teammate.
Yes, it was. Okay.
All right. Well, I know Phil Bradley was throwing you the ball at least at one time at Missouri, but who did you like? Let me just say this. Let me throw this on Richie's question. When you were playing in the NFL, you had Dan Fouts, and he was an All-Pro every single year, basically. Who did you look at and say, "Wow, okay, if it wasn't Dan, I'd like to play in this offense. I'd like to have that guy throwing me the football."
Wow.
I know.
Charlie Joyner and I had this conversation years ago when we were at a Pro Bowl in Honolulu, back in the day when they did it in Honolulu. And there was Steve Barkowski and Jaworski were the quarterbacks for the NFC. For the AFC, we had Brian Sight and Dan Fouts.
Yeah, okay.
Okay? Now, those two quarterbacks for the AFC had a totally different style than those two quarterbacks from the NFC. The two Polish rifles on that side.
Yeah.
And when you watched them in practice or you watched them in warm-up, you just saw how the ball came out of their hand, how tight the spiral was. And now you can jump in here and as a quarterback, share that information. Also, what that means to a receiver when that ball gets on you right away. And it has that tight of a spiral, it's easier to catch because you know where it is, you know what to expect with that. And that's taking nothing away from Dan and Sipes, Fouts and Sipes. But those two guys had that arm strength, and they knew how to throw that ball, and they were both big guys, and it really came out of their hands real fast and real tight.
Al, did you throw a tight spiral?
I thought I did, but what he's talking about, Dan Fouts was he anticipated very well, and when you had guys like Winslow and Chandler and Jefferson out there, he would anticipate. He could get that ball down the field as soon as Kellen turned around, it was right there. Now Sight.
Yep.
No, go ahead. Sight was somewhat kind of the same thing. Didn't have a big arm, but Bartkowski had a big arm.
Oh, yeah.
He was a big guy. He could throw the football a long way, but what I liked about Dan was he anticipated so well, but it's because he knew his guys and where they were going to be. I mean, he put balls in the holes before the guys got there, and he didn't throw a real pretty ball. Now, I mean, he didn't throw a Warren Moon type pass, but he threw a pass that was always easy to catch because it was always going to be right there in front of you.
Yeah, he had the ability to throw. Sometimes he had to wind it up and kind of stick it into a gap. But you're absolutely right, Al. But by the way, Sight played for Coryell.
That's right. It's San Diego State.
San Diego State.
Yes.
I didn't
Interesting.
realize.
A little background history on that one. So
yeah.
So we had those two down Coryell influenced quarterbacks in that game. But to see that ball come, Dan, I can only remember a couple of times when I actually saw the ball come out of Dan's hand. When I turned around, it was halfway there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Quick release. Like you said, Al, anticipation. And he knew his players. Yeah. He knew where they were going to be. Again, sort of like chess. Kind of got to figure out the board and figure out your players and your pieces. And Fouts was a master at it. So we have another question.
Kellen, did you ever mirror your game after anybody? I mean, you didn't play tight end or play football till your senior year in high school. But I mean, who did you idolize at tight end? I mean, where did you get the stuff from? I mean, was it just natural to you?
John Mackey.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Smith. And there was a guy who played for the St. Louis Cardinals by the name of J.B. Kane.
Yes.
Big tall guy. I remember
J.B.
Big
Kane.
Tall guy. I went on a recruiting trip to Kansas State with Eugene and Cleveland, my high school teammates. And I don't think Kansas State had a highlight film to show, so they showed a highlight film of the Big 8 Conference. And I saw in a highlight film of J.B. Kane, who played at Colorado, going down the middle of the field, catching a ball, and I said, I want to do that. I want to do that. And, JB passed away way too soon. And, but I always remember that big old target going down that field and catching that ball and running over the defensive back. I grew up in St. Louis watching Jackie Smith, a fellow Hall of Famer, and that's kind of I get a kick out of that. And he was such a great athlete. And then, of course, with John Mackey, it all starts with John Mackey. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and J.B. Kane, kind of the Coryell connection, right? Because he flourished under
Exactly.
Coryell with Mel Gray and Terry Metcalf, and they had that wide open offense. And he, like you said, he brought it from San Diego State to St. Louis into the Chargers and succeeded all over the place with that. So let's get another one in here real quick.
Thomas Calder asks, who was the toughest defender you ever faced?
Ooh, toughest defender, Kellen.
Toughest as far as the toughest looking, or toughest?
how about a guy that was difficult for you to get away from?
And
Mike
then
maybe
Davis.
block.
Mike Davis.
Mike Davis. Oh, from the Raiders, 36.
Yep, Oakland Raiders. Mike was big, strong. He was quick. I think Mike played at Colorado also,
He did.
didn't he?
Yeah, he was
He
Colorado.
played at Colorado also.
Yeah.
So Mike, my thing was I was bigger than the defensive backs, or maybe I can out quick a big linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
So I had an advantage somewhere. So those tweeners or those extremely big guys who could run were trouble. I don't remember Lawrence Taylor ever covering me, but I do remember him hitting me.
And how was that?
It didn't go well for me. I got caught in between Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson.
Ouch.
On the check down. I was checking out the backfield. Dan came down to me late. I think I held on to the ball, Yeah, I think I did because that was my lifeline, the ball. I held on to the ball, but I got caught in between Harry Carson and Lawrence Taylor. And they knew they were good friends of mine. We had played a couple of Pro Bowls together. And they knew they had hurt me because they stood over me and said, Kellen, are you okay? It was in the Meadowlands. I saw Jimmy Hoffa.
I saw Jimmy Hoffa. I love it.
That's why I asked you in the pregame, how's your body holding up?
Yeah, they hit me that hard.
Wow.
I held onto the ball. I tried to play it off. I got up and walked back to the huddle. And I said, okay, all right, let's go. And Dan said, straighten out your helmet. My face mask was over here.
Oh, boy. Oh, God.
My ear hole was over here.
Wow.
So, and we I got through it, but they lit me up and they knew it. And they were afraid that they had hurt a friend of theirs. So you have the Lawrence Taylor, Mike Davis, Jerry Robinson.
Really good linebacker out of UCLA. Yeah. Tremendous linebacker. Yeah.
Big enough, strong enough, very quick.
Mm-hmm.
You had to put a body on Jerry and make sure that you kept that body on him and have Dan throw the ball on the other side. Because he was quick enough to get around if you didn't put a body on him.
Good question, Tom. By the way, notice how Kellen did not mention any Rutgers Scarlet Knights in this conversation. Tom's a big Rutgers guy, so no Rutgers guys, Tom, on that one. Let's go to another question.
We have 3 more left.
We have 3 more. Let's run 3 more.
I'm going to save Barry's for last because I know you're going to touch on this subject anyway.
Okay.
So Daniel Kishart asks.
Kistard, yes.
Kistard, if you can play today, who would be your favorite quarterback to teammate with and why?
A lot of good ones.
Wow. That's that's a tough one.
Justin Herbert, just saying.
Big, strong kid, can make all the throws. I saw him play Sunday night, and he was just whipping that ball, just flipping it there. If I was looking for a guy closer to Dan Fouts, I would go to Russell Wilson.
Okay.
And Russell Wilson would be, that guy who can get rid of the ball quickly, who can make the deep throw, is not afraid to make the deep throw. And who else would I go with here?
What about Mahomes?
Man, just so many of the guys.
Yeah, there are.
Mahomes, when he scrambles, you work back to the quarterback, and he's going to reward you for working hard for him because he's going to spread that ball around to guys who are working hard on that field. There are just so many great quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, he throws a pretty ball, and it comes off that hand, that great rotation. You were talking, Al, about the spin on the ball. He has a great job in doing that. And it's always fun playing with somebody who is that electric.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good question. Okay. We got another one?
Yep. Another one from Daniel. Who's your favorite tight end playing today?
Favorite tight end playing today. And there's a bunch of them.
Oh, my God. I really don't have a favorite because it's just so fun watching so many of them. And every team has a great athlete playing tight end.
Yeah.
Every team has it. I just like watching them play, and I respect their game.
I love the kid Laporta at Detroit. I got to tell you, I think he's a
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I know everyone's going to talk Kelsey. I get Kelsey and Kittle. I understand that.
Yep.
But Laporta's just turned out to be a tremendous weapon for the Lions.
Yeah, and they traded a guy who was a pretty good tight end.
Yeah.
Exactly, to bring him in, and we'll just let you know what they think of him.
Absolutely.
And I'm not sure what his stats are this year, but I'm sure he's contributing to the Lions' success.
Yeah, and they are successful this year. That's for sure. Another question out there, Tony?
Yep, the question from Barry.
Yep.
He wants to know Kellen's opinion on the NIL. Is it helpful or hurtful in your eyes?
I was going to say, we could save that. Yeah, that's a good question, and we're going to get into that a little bit later. But, Kellen, we have to talk about this, and this is kind of – so we talked about the Epic in Miami, that great game. The whole – you're up big in that game. I think you were up 24-0 in the second quarter. It was crazy. And then they make the comeback, the hook and ladder play. Don Strock is playing quarterback for them. But you play in that game, and it's the picture of you being, taken off the field at the end of the game, you got your arms draped over Eric Sievers, and I think it was Billy Shields. It's an iconic picture. I wish we had it, but we don't want to get sued by the NFL by showing it. You got that. So you go from Miami, where it's in the 80s and the humidity and it's just the sheer exhaustion, and then you have to go and play Cincinnati for the AFC Championship game. I think it was the following week. Am I correct?
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm.
And you go from that to a game where it's -5, the wind chill is -59 degrees. Forget about physically, mentally, how in the world, and I know both teams had to play in it. I totally understand that. But how do you go from one, like just complete climate, like the way it was and so exhausting, to play in a freezer bowl? I mean, how did you guys do this? And you lost 27-7 too. So
yeah, we had no choice but to go out and play. There was some talk. Yeah. There was some talk before the game of canceling the game for that Sunday and going to Houston.
Really?
That Monday and playing in the Dome.
Oh wow! I did not hear this. Okay.
There was some talk about that. They talked to cold weather experts, doctors, physicians, and this is what we got from our owner, Gene Klein. They talked to the physicians, and they said that if we dress properly, we should be okay. Of course, that physician they talked to was sitting in Chicago next to a fire with a blanket over his lap and a dog on his toes, covering up his toes. It was inhumane.
I was going to say, how brutal were the conditions to play football? How
they were brutal
difficult
conditions.
Yeah.
The field was basically concrete.
Oof.
Cincinnati wasn't known for having the best AstroTurf in the league at the time. And then you imagine that cold and that wind, it was just a brick.
Oof.
They beat us and they beat us fairly. Both teams had to play under that conditions. But I think with today's technology, weather-wise, apparel-wise, we would have fared better. Our cold weather gear was either pantyhose or what do you call it? The underwear, the undergarments. The things you slept in as a child.
Oh God!
Oh, you're from
Long
Florida.
Johns.
You don't know.
Long Johns.
Thank you, Long Johns. Thank you. Long Johns, and to tape your ankles, you would tape your ankles. You would put on a sock, put a plastic bag over the socks, tape the plastic bag, put on another sock,
Oof.
and then put your shoe on to keep the wind from your feet when they were sweating, because you won't get frostbite.
Oof.
And of course, what happens in the game is the bag pops or breaks or whatever. And to this day, I have frostbite in my right big toe.
I was going to ask that question. Did you ever suffer for anything long term from that game?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
Frostbite. And Dan has had trouble with his hands due to that game, because he couldn't wear gloves in that ball game and really suffered with that. But in with today's apparel technology, teams fare better in those weather conditions. They have the full body suit with the feet, with the toes that go in and all that kind of good stuff, and the spandex type of apparel to keep the wind off of them. But back in that day, it was makeshift. I wore 2 pair of gloves in that game.
And those weren't
baseball
the gloves, right? They were like gloves, right?
Yeah, a pair of baseball gloves, and then a pair of scuba gloves on top of those.
Oh wow!
So it was like just having big pancakes. And I never caught the ball with my hands. I always had to catch it like this or something of that nature, just to make sure that your hands were protected. But they wanted to go to Houston to play the game. And that didn't happen because of television.
Mm-hmm.
What was television going to show? And then what were they going to preempt on Monday night, which is a big television night,
right,
in order to show this game? So we had to go out and play.
Man, I would have loved, Al, to seen that Charger team play San Francisco. As we know, Cincinnati went and lost 16-13. I believe it was 16-13. I think the Chargers would have, and that was Montana's first, really year, winning a Super Bowl with the Niners. They didn't have the great players. Well, I'm not going to say that they didn't have the Rices at that time and Roger Craigs and all that stuff. They had Wendell Tyler at running back and Bill Ring and Earl Cooper and Charlie Young and Freddie Solomon. They had all those players, but I would have loved to seen how they fared against your team.
Well, they were running a form of the Coryell offense.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Bill Walsh, right? That was Bill Walsh.
Yeah, they were running a form of that.
Wow, that's
Yep.
and let's it would be remiss to not talk about. We're talking about all the offensive stars of the Chargers when you played there, but people forget you guys had a pretty good defense, and your front four and some of the guys that came in after that, replacements. I think 2 years in a row you had close to 50 sacks. I mean, you didn't blitz a lot too. They brought the pressure with 4 guys. Fred Dean's a Hall of Famer. A tremendous player. I think he went out of Louisiana Tech, if I'm not sure about that. But
Yes.
Big Hands Johnson was a first-round draft pick out of Grambling.
Yep.
Kelcher out of SMU was a top pick. And Leroy Jones, came on. They found him, and they were really steady. And you had some backups. You brought up DeJournay and Wilbur Young from the Chiefs, I think. But those 4 guys were real good pass rushers.
We would stand on the sideline when our defense was on the field. Wes, Charlie, at the time JJ was there, myself, and we would watch the defense rush. And we would just take side bets, no money exchange, but just little side bets of who's going to get to the quarterback first.
Wow.
Just to watch. It was a thing of beauty to watch. And yeah, they brought 4.
I was going to say that.
And they would get pressure. And with all those, they get credit for the sacks, but the hurries.
Mm-hmm.
You got to add those into it also. They were a great group.
Yeah,
great.
And I wanted to get your take because I know you've been so gracious being with us. And again, thank you so much. My last thing for you tonight is, what was it like when you guys traded John Jefferson? I know there was a holdout in JJ number 83 with the goggles. He was fantastic. And we held out. There was an issue with Klein, and he ended up getting traded to Green Bay. And then you made the trade to get Wes Chandler, who was a great player in his own right. But losing JJ, I think you guys came in at the same year or maybe 1 year before him.
I came in a year after. John did. We actually played against John when he was at Arizona State in college, and we beat them. I think it was 15-9.
Okay. That was Frank Cush's days back in that day. There.
Back in Frank Cush's day, JJ had like 14 catches on us, but he didn't get into the end zone. So
what was it like to lose him? I mean, evidently you guys were probably pretty close, and was it difficult?
We were very close, extremely close. Lived in the same neighborhood, went to work together, room together. I had envisioned years of Charlie, John, and myself being together for our entire careers and the remaining of Charlie's career. But it just didn't work out that way. I remember saying some things in the newspaper, not exact quotes I'm going to bring up here, but I was very critical of the front office for trading John Jefferson. Something like, what the hell are they doing up there?
Yeah.
And I was known to be very vocal at the time, but I was upset. You've not only traded my teammate, you've traded my friend.
Yeah.
And someone I had a great deal of respect for. But then a couple of weeks later, they bring in Wes. And that doesn't, make it any better as far as losing JJ. But from a talent perspective, it was comparable.
Yeah.
Very comparable.
Great player. And I got the autographed jersey. I got Wes's. I got John's. I got Charlie's. I just need one more to fill up my triumphant room here.
Hank Bowers?
And that's gonna be
Hank
number
Bowers?
80. Number 80. I need a Kellen Winslow autograph, Kellen. I'm throw that out to you. I'm just telling you.
Okay.
Hey, Kellen, I've got one for you, buddy. You're a talented guy, and you've been doing some athletic administration, doing your after football career. What are your thoughts on the NIL and the portal? And where do you see it going? I mean, people don't know that you also have a JD. I mean, you're a brilliant guy, man. Talk to us about your thoughts on that and the direction it's going. And if we're going to have an NCAA in the coming years or what? What are we doing?
Yes, that's a question for Barry too. So thank you, Al, for bringing that up.
Yeah. The NCAA, I have no empathy or sympathy for them with this portal and the NIL. They could have solved this problem years ago.
Agreed.
And whenever you let someone else solve your problems, you're not going to like the solution. The NCAA years ago could have gone to a way of finding to better compensate players because, whether they were employees or not, they had a great deal of value to the program. But instead, they were treated as indentured servants. And now that the courts have gotten involved and the power has shifted in collegiate football with the Big Five conferences and the bowl champion, no, not the bowl championship series, the committee, to come up with the playoff committee. Right. I have no empathy for them whatsoever. They could have solved this problem years ago, but they didn't want to. Maybe they didn't know how to, but they certainly could have done better than having a portal and having an NIL.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Kellen, I think that the NCAA is petrified of lawsuits at this point, and they do not want to be dragged into courtrooms, and that's probably why. Listen, you got NIL money, but it's the whole transfer portal thing that drives me kooky. I mean, it just seems like players aren't into competition anymore. They battle. This guy beats out the other guy. I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere else. I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere else. Stick it out. See if you can win the job back. Maybe you get some mop-up time, and maybe a guy gets hurt and you end up playing. I mean, it just seems like guys nowadays, if they don't start, they're bailing and they leave and they quit on their teammates. And Al and I talk about this, and we don't like the way that is. And I know everybody wants to get paid and everybody wants to play. But, to transfer 4 years for 4 different schools, it's getting ridiculous. I think it is.
Well, that is kind of ridiculous. Then again, when you look at the NCAA and you look at the universities, they created this mess.
Yeah.
But do they track graduation rates anymore?
Are they student athletes anymore?
Are we talking about graduation rates? How does the governing bodies for the universities to be accredited? How do they look at that and deal with that? Or is the athletic department a part of the university anymore? Should the university be charging the athletic department for licensing rights to use their logo, to be associated with the school? There's so many questions that come up. How do we want this to look and how do we want this to feel? And it all has to start, in my opinion, for the welfare of the students. And start there and kind of rebuild what they had. The previous system, it just didn't work. It was indentured servants. You have to be here. You have to stay here. No, you can't go anywhere. I control you. I'm not going to say what that sounds like, but we know what that sounds like.
We know what it's not. We know what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was not going to last, especially when technology comes and people realize what's going on, because now they can communicate with each other and talk. And now we have transportation. I can get on a plane and be in another city in a matter of hours and start a new system, a new career at a new location. But they are, a committee to sit down and really take a look at collegiate athletics and decide what is it, what do we want it to be.
All right, that's a good way of putting it.
I tell you what, I know we've gone way past your bedtime, I'm sure, my man. But let me ask you this:
Do my eyes look tired?
No, you look great.
No. You look great, man. Looking back, knowing what you know now, is it anything you would do different at any point in your career? I mean, whether it be relative to playing ball. I mean, high school, college, and even pro. Is it anything that Kellen Winslow is looking back that you would do just a little bit different, or maybe I'll go left instead of right here?
I would have gotten this hunger for education sooner. I really would have. I, finished school. Took me a while to finish my undergraduate degree. And if I could have changed anything, it would have been the desire to understand the value of an education sooner. I came to it late.
Good point.
And it's, I'm 67 years old. I'm considering going to do a PhD in sports psychology because I think there's a need in that area. And I'm trying to convince myself I'm not too old to start it.
You're never too old.
Never too old, champ. Make it happen.
Yeah, I'm too lazy, but I'm never too old.
Well, I got to say, Kellen, Benny would say, well, if you do that, then I need a sports psychologist on my golf game. So you'll have to tag along for 18 holes with me because God knows I need all the help I can get. Evidently, it's in my head. But listen, we've done an hour. You've been more than gracious enough to answer all the questions and talk about your amazing career. And we are so thankful that you agreed to come on tonight. You're a tremendous player. And you're a tremendous person. So thank you so very, very much. I want to wish you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving next week. And again, just thank you so much.
Jeez.
I know, it's next week, next Thursday.
Man,
get that fried turkey, Kellen. Get that fried turkey.
Oh my God.
I know. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Kellen,
thank you guys.
So much,
I've enjoyed it. Al, good to see you, brother. You take care.
All right, my man.
All right,
tell the Rattler Nation I said hello.
I'll do it.
Now, everybody, the show's gone long, but do not leave us because we're talking FBS. We're talking how much I love Notre Dame. That's a lie. And we're going to talk about why they shouldn't even be in the playoffs because they're not in a conference. And we're going to talk about other things as well. So stay tuned. Again, thank you, Kellen. We'll be right back after this.
Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop, located at 4212 Oleander Drive, Wilmington's #1 firearms dealer. Sporting a large inventory, including all brands of handguns and long guns, a full stock of accessories, and all types of ammunition. Jim's Pawn and Gun Shop has it all, including the best customer service in the area.
Before the lights go out, call Wilmington Generators. We offer the lowest price and a 10-year warranty for all Briggs & Stratton installations. A Briggs & Stratton powers more of your home for less money. Call for a free quote. Wilmington Generators. We play with power.
Welcome back to Sports Talking Sports. I'm your host, Les Swartz. That was awesome. I mean, that's one of the best, man. That was a great interview, and he was fantastic. So, Al, thanks for hooking us up with that.
He's a class act, man. I tell you, we got to get him back, too,
at a
subsequent time.
because we have more stories.
I tell you, ain't no doubt. No doubt.
We didn't even talk about his hatred for the Raiders. We got to get into that. But look at this. The man to my right, well, I don't know. Benny's looking. There he is. He's popping up. There he goes. We got Benny the Book in the house. Benny, great interview.
Yes. Got my, I can't see. There it is. There's my San Diego
He's got a San Diego Charger helmet up there. Okay, we like it.
Charger helmet. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, he extremely knowledgeable and smart gentleman, man, really.
Yeah.
Like he said, he played the game like a chess game.
It did. And guess what? He said it, man. He was the knight. He made it happen. All right, guys, listen, we got a lot of stuff going on. FBS, we got to make it quick. We're kind of over here, but let's talk about this thing. Let's have Tony throw up the top 12 right now. Now, I came up with this before they broke it out last night. Again, this is if the season were to start, we're ending today and the playoffs started. It's not projecting who's going to win the conference. It's going to say who would have won it right now. I got Oregon. They're Oregon, Texas, Colorado. Yes, I got the Buffs. They're tied with BYU. I think they're playing better football than BYU. And SMU right now is in first place in the ACC. They would have your buys. Then you've got Ohio State, the next highest team. I've got Alabama jumping right back into the fray. Benny, as much as I hate to say it, I do have Notre Dame in there. I can't deny the fact that
you have to have them. Come on.
I know. Riley Leonard's playing okay.
You got Texas A&M down there. They beat them.
Listen, Tony, put that back up again, please.
Come on.
Hold on. Wait a second. I got Indiana number 8, and we'll talk about the Hoosiers. Georgia, big win last week against Tennessee. They go to 9. Ole Miss jumps in there. Penn State drops down to 11. I do have Boise in there because they're leading the conference. They have a 1 loss to the number 1 ranked team by a field goal in the last 5 seconds of the game, and they might have the second best player in college football, in Ashton Genty. In the mix, listen, Miami still can control their own, I hate that word destiny because you can't control destiny. They can control their own future. You got Tennessee with just 2 losses. BYU, listen, big game this week against Arizona State. The winner of that game is in the driver's seat for Big 12 championship appearance. A&M, they got to hold court, and then they finish up against Texas. And if they beat Texas, guys, on the last game of the year, and it's a big rivalry, that throws this thing into a complete craziness. We got 2 lost teams all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So, right?
It's already crazy.
It's
already
crazy. It's every week, everything could change. It could always it could change.
All right, guys.
Don't go down to the last game.
I know we had the passionate discussion last week about Indiana. And listen, it's all in front of them right now. You know, we talked about it. Their strength of schedule is 106th, which is pathetic, okay? They don't play anybody. Now, they have a chance. They're playing Ohio State. It's a noontime kickoff, I think, in Columbus, which makes no sense to me why Fox would do this. Why are they not putting this in prime time on Saturday night at 8 o'clock? Bizarre to me. I don't know. Maybe they're throwing some crazy show on.
Maybe
Fox
because of the
something.
weather.
Hey, it's football weather, baby. It's cold, right? So, but here's the thing, guys. If Indiana beats Ohio State, it's a no-brainer unless they crap out against Purdue in the last game of the year, which I don't think that'll happen.
No, they won't.
If they lose a close game, say they're in it and it's a field goal game, they end up losing 24-21, a 24-17, a close game, I still like their chances. But I'm just saying this can happen. Al, say they get blasted 38-7, 49-0, 52-14. Having played nobody and then playing a real top team and getting crushed like that, does that eliminate them from any playoff chances?
Well, I think it's gonna throw some shade on them for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Certainly,
but I think if they can keep it close against Ohio State, all bets are still on. I mean, I think it's equal across the board, but I think it's going to be a better game than we think. I think Ohio State has obviously got a great football team, but because they're playing in Columbus, it's going to be a challenging outing for Indiana. But I tell you what, I'm still saying they're undefeated. These guys they've handled the business. They've beaten everybody in front of them.
They have.
And they just got another great contest against Ohio State coming up on Saturday.
You know, you just can't, like, you know, Purdue's usually a decent team. They're horrible this year.
They're terrible,
I mean, they're just terrible,
Right.
but they're normally not that bad.
Right.
You know, it's, you know, USC, you know, they've had their problems. They lost guys, you know, it's like, it's crazy. I mean, look at BYU. They took a big hit. They dropped a lot. They lose this week, they're gone.
Right, I was going to say they're undefeated. And listen, the committee dropped them out of the top 12.
Yeah.
And listen, and I know Kansas has underperformed. Preseason, they were top 25. Jalen Daniels can throw the ball. That kid Neal, Devin Neal's a really good running back. But the bottom line is they were 3-6, playing at BYU. BYU's at home, coming off a big emotional win. And they just fell apart. And that's what concerns me, Benny. I know in your pick segment, you like Kansas. I think Kansas might still have a hangover. They have the big win against BYU, and now you got Colorado coming in. And I'm telling you right now, they're playing the best football of anybody in the Big 12 right now.
The kid, let me tell you something. I watched that game last week. Yes, they scored 45 points. There was some very controversial penalties called on the opposition against Colorado. One time, Sanders was tackled, and they called roughing the passer. The guy hit him in his thigh pads.
I was going to say, I didn't know where you were going with that, Betty Alley. Was going to hit him in his. I didn't know where he was going with that.
You know, it kind of hurt me there. You know, I was watching that game. I had the points there, and I'm looking. They're giving them points.
Dion does a good job of lobbying those referees too. Now, you know, Dion's working them now.
And he's working. And the kid's going to win the Heisman.
Oh, I think, and we'll get to that.
It's not stats. It's not stat wise. I mean, the guy, he played 133 plays.
But he's the best player in college football. Yeah. There's no doubt about it.
And he makes the big plays when he has to.
No doubt.
You know, when they need a big play, they throw him the ball, and he goes up and gets it.
Agreed. Totally agreed. And you put him on a wide receiver. Now, interesting enough, he did get beat deep last week.
Yes, he did. Yep.
He was playing great, and the kid put a double move on him. It was a nice catch. And
Dion was talking to him after that.
Yeah. He won't.
He was in his ear hole there.
Oh no doubt.
What the hell are you doing, man?
You got to have a short memory. You got to have a short memory when you're a defensive back.
But I want to get on you. But to your, go ahead, Al.
But to your point, about Colorado, I think they right now are peaking. They may be playing the best football.
They are.
I think collectively as a team. And you know, this is when it's important. I mean, now they got through the first hurdle. it's the second half of the season. And then when you get to the playoffs, it's a whole different season. But Colorado is hot. They're one of the hot teams in the country right now.
He brought in those defensive linemen through the portal. That's like a totally different defense from last year.
Well,
and Sapp, he added Sapp to the coaching.
Well, he added Sapp, but I'm going to tell you, I think the biggest addition was Rob Livingston, the defensive coordinator, who came up and completely changed the scheme for Colorado. They brought in some players, and that team is stopping the run now where they couldn't stop the run at all last year.
Absolutely.
And it's not on Sanders. He doesn't have to score 45, 50 points for them to win a game. But, guys, I'm going to make all the Golden Domers mad at me, and hopefully we still have some people on. If you are, you tell me I'm wrong. Okay, I got Notre Dame's in there, but the bottom line is, guys, it's not a level playing field. And this is Lane Kiffin this week came out and said he talked to other coaches. They don't even want to play in the SEC championship game if you got 2 losses. Because if you go to the championship game and lose, that's 3 and you're out. You got a team like Notre Dame that does not have a conference affiliation. Yeah, they play 4 or 5 ACC teams, but they don't play in a conference championship game. What happens is, They finish up with USC, and I know USC can be good, but this year they're terrible. They're 4-6 or 4-6, I think. They're not even bowl eligible. Okay, they're going to lose to UCLA this week. They're not even bowl eligible. Sorry, Stu, about that. But the bottom line is they're playing their last game against a team that's not bowl eligible, where a team with 2 losses in the SEC has got to play a team in the top 15. How do they get dinged for playing in a championship game? I know they lose 3 games, guys, but how do they not get in when the other 3 teams in the SEC don't play in the championship game and get in the playoffs? Explain this to me. It doesn't make sense.
They lost 3 games.
Yeah, I know.
I don't. You can't go by. So you should say, well, then six SEC teams should get in there. Texas A&M. Notre Dame beat Texas A&M at Texas A&M.
That's fine. I'm not talking Texas A&M. I'm talking to teams like Tennessee, Ole Miss, or if Alabama gets in. Listen,
Kiffin's a little crazy. He says crazy things. Benny, you want to get into the championship game, you get a bye. You get a bye. You get home game.
What if you lose the game?
So you got 3 losses. You shouldn't be in the playoffs.
But so you're going to tell me a team that gets into playoffs is better than the team that's not even in there, and they get in? Oh, come on, that's insane.
That's like saying when one of those teams from the non-Power 5 are 14-0. Don't give them a shot. Like Boise State beat Oklahoma that year. Yeah, things can happen, Les.
I understand that, but you're penalizing a team for going.
You're saying, oh, they're the best conference, so they should get the teams in.
Listen,
come on.
Okay, come on. Notre Dame shouldn't even. Okay, yeah, Notre Dame's playing Army this week. Okay, first of all, I love that big
Army's
win
undefeated.
Yeah, and so was the Navy. They lost to Rice, which is a cereal, and they ended up losing to freaking Tulane last week, 37-0. Okay, so yeah, Navy got sunk. Okay, I love Army. I love the whole thing. They're undefeated. Guess what? They're going to get crushed. Notre Dame has got like a 50-pound weight advantage on the lines. Riley Leonard's going to run for God knows how many yards, and Army's going to lose. I hope they win, but they're going to lose.
Florida's going to beat Mississippi this week, and then Kiffin don't have to worry about going to no championship
I don't know.
game.
My friends in Santa Rosa Beach are going to love that if the Gators pull that up. But
they are. They're playing good.
But like
the kids 3-0.
Al, don't listen to him on the right. Listen to me. Listen to me, Al. Al. Why is it that one school gets to do their own thing? We're elite. We're Notre Dame. We have our own broadcasting company. We're the rich. We can do anything we want. Everyone has to play by the rules except for Notre Dame. Notre Dame gets to do whatever they want to do. Guess what? If Notre Dame's out of here, college football ratings are still good. None of the committee cares about Notre Dame except for the lovers of Notre Dame. It's not fair. Al, tell me it's a level playing field when they get their own rules.
You're absolutely wrong, Les.
Al.
Well, you know, Notre Dame has always felt like they were the elite of college football.
Thank you.
They've always felt like that. Yeah. I mean, so they've been independent for a long time.
There used to be a lot of independent teams, Les.
But there's not anymore, Benny. That's the proof. They opened the conferences. South Carolina was independent, but they're in the conference now.
NBC wants to pay Notre Dame all the money to put them on every week.
And what is that? Notre Dame Broadcasting Company? Is that what that stands for? I don't even know what they are. All right. Well, anyways, let's throw up the Heisman real quick because we talked about it. It's really down to a 2-team race now. I really think it is. You got Travis Hunter and Ashton Genty, Cam Ward, Dylan Gabriel Lickett. Last week, Benny, they almost lost to Wisconsin, and he did not look too good.
No, he didn't. He didn't look good at all. I mean, if Wisconsin had any kind of offense, they would have won that game.
Yeah,
they couldn't move the ball down the field.
Yeah, 16-13.
Yeah.
Rob was visiting me in Wilmington. We were watching the game, and we thought Wisconsin was going to pull that thing off. I think, guys, it's Genty's not going to break Barry Sanders' record. He's got to average 200 yards in the next couple of games. He's going to do it. I think it's Travis Hunter. I think it's his. He's the best football player in the country.
He is.
He's an All-American at 2 positions.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, but it's not how you start, but how you finish. And the guy who finishes well the last half of the season, who's getting all the publicity, and just like we talked about last week, Travis is not going to have 15 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Right. He's going to have those plays, and then just like Benny mentioned, when it's his time up or when they need him to step up and show out, he's always there.
He's there.
I think it's going to be his. Between him and the marketing that Deion's going to do, that he is doing, I think Church is out.
Yeah, as long as Colorado keeps winning, and they're going to show him, and he's going to be on the field all the time, and then he's going to make those plays. I mean, he's electric. He's definitely electric.
All right,
he's special, no doubt about it.
All right, let's go, because guys, I'm looking at the time here. I'm like, it's almost past my bedtime. All right, Al, quick Rattler recap and what's going on with the HBCU game of the week.
All right, the game of the week we had last week was Howard versus North Carolina Central. North Carolina Central, just like we said, took care of business, took care of Howard, 26-3. FAMU, I tell you what, man, we lost another one to Mississippi Valley, 24-21. Can't get out of our own way. But this week is the granddaddy of them all. We got the Florida Classic, FAMU versus Bethune-Cookman. Okay. It's going to be live and in living color, Orlando, Florida, Camping World Stadium at 3 o'clock. It's going to be a showdown. I tell you what, for all the bragging rights, let's get it done. We're going to get it done this week. We got a new play caller. The offensive coordinator is handing over the play calling duties to the quarterback coach. And the quarterback coach happens to be a guy named Henry Burris, who's a CFL, all pro, all everything, all Hall of Famer. Right. He's our quarterback coach. He's going to be calling plays the balance of the season. So we're going to see if that's going to make a difference. And we're hoping the Rattlers going to come away with a big victory.
We got to get Richardson going. We got to get Richardson going, Al. We need some offensive explosion this week. All right.
Absolutely.
Benny, real quick. We'll keep Al with this because maybe he'll have some comments. Real quick, let's run your because we don't have the graphics up this week, but let's run up your college picks this week.
All right, I got 5 games here.
All right,
I as you told everybody, I like Kansas plus the 2.5 points against Colorado.
Tough game. Okay.
If Kansas doesn't turn the ball over, they could score with Colorado.
All right.
So I like that game. Next game, think BYU's bubble burst. I'm going to take Arizona State laying 3. The Arizona State went to Kansas State and they totally dominated Kansas State, and Kansas State doesn't get dominated at home. You know, they got a pretty good squad.
Sam Levitt, great story there. Quarterback and Scabetto, the running backs, very good. Dillingham, one of the best coaching jobs this year, by the way.
And you're going to like my next pick.
Okay.
The Fighting Irish, minus 14.5 against the Army. Right. Army season's done. They're done.
You're right. I like the pick. Notre Dame's going to win about 49 to 14, and Riley Leonard's going to throw for 200, run for $150. Probably. All right. Next.
My 4th game is I'm going to take 13.5 with Indiana against Ohio State. I mean that team's 10-0. They're not going to all of a sudden disappear. You told me how good the quarterback is for Indiana. Their offense is
Rook's
good.
a good player. They can score. Okay.
They'll score. Yep. So you get them with almost 2 touchdowns. So,
okay.
Indiana. Right. And the last game is, I can't believe I'm picking this team because at the first 5 games of the year, they were horrible. UCLA. I'll take them plus 4.5 against USC. You know, it's a big rivalry game. That means everything to them. You know, those 2 schools.
You know what's great about them?
Throw the record books out the window.
It doesn't make a difference.
Well, you know what's great about that game, guys? Watch this game. They both wear their home uniforms. Mm-hmm. UCLA wears the powder blue, and the other ones wear the cardinal.
I like
gold.
those powder blue uniforms.
Yeah, it's very. I like them too. Very.
I don't like USC.
Stu's not going to be happy. Listen, hey, if USC loses this game, let me ask you a question. At the beginning of the year, would you have thought Lincoln Riley would be on the way out and Billy Napier would be staying? How crazy is this?
Yeah, that's crazy. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go to the pros.
All right, for the pros,
you went 2-2 last week, right?
Yeah, 2-2.
Okay.
I got Seattle -1 against Arizona. Seattle had a big win last week at San Francisco. I think they'll continue it.
Arizona leading the NFC West. Okay.
Well, They're 6-4, Arizona, and everybody else in the division's 5-5.
So they're leading.
They're
so
all,
Al, what did I just say? They're leading the NFC West. Okay, there we go. Next.
Next, I'll take Green Bay laying 2.5 against San Francisco.
Ooh.
Kittles is going to play, but they're not the same team, San Francisco. Their
Is
defense,
Purdy playing? Is Purdy playing?
That's a question mark also.
Yep.
I don't know. You make me pick the games on Tuesday. I don't know.
Well, what do you want me to do? We got to
He's
show
banged up
Wednesday.
a little bit.
Yeah, he's
Purdy
banged
is
up.
banged up a little bit.
Shoulder.
He's banged up a little bit.
Al, are they going to go to John Brody? I have no idea.
Yeah.
All right, next. Go ahead. Ben.
Third game. Third game, I'm going to take the Houston Texans laying the 8 against Tennessee. Tennessee's horrible.
They are.
You know?
I agree. That's a good one.
And I'm going to take my last game. I'm going to take Miami minus the 7 against New England. I had New England last week. I lost by 0.5 point. Miami played very well against the Rams, scored. Maybe they got all their guys back. 2 is back for the second week. They'll score a lot of points. New England can't score as many points as them.
Drake May, though, 30 for 40 last week.
Yeah,
282.
30 for 40,
not a bad game. You start.
Yeah, but they don't score. They don't score.
No, they don't
points.
score. They don't have any receivers.
It's like amazing. Like Pittsburgh, 6 field goals.
Yeah, but they got JJ.
But
They got TJ Watt, who's the best defensive player.
They got,
right now.
and they also have his number, Jackson.
Guys,
they got Jackson's number. He never plays good against
Guys, I got to tell you, it was such a great Sunday for me. Baltimore lost. Kansas City went down because Josh Allen took off. He put on the Superman cape, Al, and he made that run, that fourth down ballsy
MVP.
call.
Yeah, he did.
MVP right there. That's your MVP.
Well, I don't know, too early for that, but he's definitely a front runner.
And you know what's really hurts me? The Giants could have had Josh Allen.
Yeah, well.
They could have had him. Instead, they took the Duke guy.
Well, because
he was a project. Some project.
And
they sitting him down this week. They're sitting him down this week.
They,
Tommy DeVito's playing this week?
Yeah. Was it cheeseburgers or what are they cooking? The pizzas or something?
He's got the name that should be on The Sopranos. And then the Chargers finish up late Sunday night, blow the big lead, come back, and I got to tell you guys, Ladd McConkey, man, Al, this kid can play out of Georgia.
I never, you know what? I didn't like him at Georgia, but he always made big plays, and now he goes to the pros and he's making big plays.
Yeah, he's
one of them guys we say, "Hey, he ain't that good."
Yeah, but he's pretty good. And my boy Justin Herbert lit it up. So, listen, guys, we're not going to have a show next week because it's the week of Thanksgiving. Our next show is going to be December 3rd. I think we've got the former. December 4th. We've got the former Oakland Raider. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not sure if he's an Oakland Raider Hall of Famer, but
no, he's
Henry
not a
Lawrence.
Hall of Famer yet.
We got Henry Lawrence?
Not December 4th.
Oh.
December 11th.
So December 4th is up for discussion? Oh, good. Oh, guys, up for discussion. Everybody out there, all our viewers, all our subscribers, up for discussion. By the way, 984. We're moving. We're getting closer.
Notre Dame will be number 2 or 3 by then.
Benny, you want to know something? If
Go
Notre
Fighting
Dame,
Irish.
Listen to me. If the Fighting Irish win the national championship, you will be getting an autographed Joe Montana helmet.
Okay.
You heard it here.
I heard it.
You heard it. All right, guys, listen. I want to
Happy
say
Thanksgiving, Al. Happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you.
Oh, hold on.
Same to you guys, man.
I haven't signed off yet. Hold on. First of all, I want to say thank you very much to our special guest, Kellen Winslow, who was awesome. Tremendous guest. What a great player. What a classy guy. Listen, Joni comes back on Saturday, so our next show after Thanksgiving, our chat girl's back. So Joni, safe travels back from Maryland. I want to thank my co-host, Al the Rattler Chester, Benny the Book, West Virginia, Notre Dame. He loves all the teams I hate. My amazing producer, the Wizard, the man behind the scenes, Tony the Tiger Smrali. So everybody out there, wishing everyone a happy, a safe Thanksgiving holiday. This is Les Schwartz, Schwartz Talking Sports. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Take care, man.